You did the other day. You said dream and cry out. Now the talk, not only the littleness. But my hunter sometimes talk of a thing, a dark thing, a beast, some sort of animal. I have heard you thought not, didn't you? Now listen, you don't get big animals on small island, only big. You only get lion and tigers and big country like Africa and India and to the zoo. I have got the conch. I am not talking about the fire. I am talking about the best. Be frightened if you like, but as far the best. Jack passed cradling the conch and turned to his hunter with their dirty black caps. I'm a hunter. I am. Oh, I know. Jean nodded. Simply, he was a hunter. All right. No one doubted that. Well then, I have been all over this island by myself. If there were a beast, I would have seen it. Be frightened because you are like that, but there is no beast in the forest. Jack handed back the conch and sat down. The whole assembly applauded him with relief. Then Vicky held out his hand. I don't agree with all Jack said, but with some. Course there isn't a beast in the forest. How could there be? What would a beast eat? Big. We ate big, Biggie. I got the conch, said Biggie indignantly, relieved. The off to shoot up. Off of Sunday, you shoot up your littleness. What I mean is that I don't agree about this here fire. Of course, there isn't nothing to be afraid of in the forest. Why a bin? There myself, you'll be talking about ghosts and such things next. We know what goes on, and if there is something wrong, there is someone to put it right. He took off his glasses and blinked at them. The sun had gone, as if the light had been turned off. He proceeded to explain: if you get a pain in your stomach, whether it's a little one or a big one, yours is a big one. When you're done laughing, perhaps we can get on with the meeting. And if them littleness climb back on the twister again, they will only fall off in a sec, so they might as well sit on the ground and listen. Now you have dictators for everything, even the inside of your mind. You don't really mean that we got to be frightened all the time of nothing? Life, said Biggie expansively, is successfully. That's what it is. In a year or two, when the war is over, you will be traveling to Mars and Mech. I know there isn't no best, not with clothes and all that I mean, but I know there isn't no fire either. Vicky passed unless relief moved restlessly, unless we get frightened of people. I sound half laugh. Half rose among the seated boy. Biggie ducked his head and went on hastily. So let's hear from that little who talked about the best, and perhaps we can show him how. I was asleep when the twisty thing were fighting, and when they went away, I was awake. and I saw something big and horrid moving in the tree. Olaf held out his hand for the conch and the little sit down. You were asleep. There wasn't anyone there. How could anyone be wandering about in the forest at night? Did anyone go out? There was a long pause while the assembly grinned at the truth of anyone going out in the darkness. Then Simon stood up and Olaf looked at him in astonishment. You, what were you making about in the dark for? Simon grabbed the conch convulsively. I wanted to go to a place. A place I know. What place? Just a place I know. A place in the jungle. He hesitated. Jack settled the question for them with the continuity in his voice that cold sound so funny and so final. He was taken short with a feeling of humiliation on Simon's behalf. Olaf took back the conch, looking Simon sternly in the face as he did so. Well, don't do it again, understand? Not at night. There is enough silly talk about beasts without the littleness sighing you gliding about like the deserved laughter that Ross had fire in it and condemnation. Simon opened his mouth to speak, but Olaf had the conch, so he backed to his seat. When the assembly was silent, Olaf turned to Biggie. Well, Biggie, there was another one him. The littleness pushed Percival forward, then left him by himself. He stood knee-deep in the central grass, looking at his deep hidden feet, trying to pretend he was in a tent. Olaf remember another small boy who had stood like this, and he flashed away from the memory. He had pushed the top down and out of sight, where only some positive remind like this could bring it to the surface. There had been no fortune numbering of the littleness, partly because there was no mean of using that all of them were accounted for, and partly because Olaf now the answer to at least one question Biggie had asked on the Monteplay. There were Little Boy, Fire, Dark, Freckled, and all the Diary, and Jerface were all dreadful, free of major blemish. No one had seen the mulberry colored birthmark again, but that time Biggie had connected and built tacitly admitting that he remembered the imaginable. Olaf nodded to Biggie. Go on, ask him. Biggie knelt, holding the conch. Now then, what's your name? The small boy twisted away into his tent. Biggie turned helpless to Olaf, who spoke sharply. What's your name? Tornado. By the silence and the refusal, the assembly broke into a chant. What's your name? What's your name? Quite Olaf breathed at the shield in the twig. Now tell us what's your name? Percival Wemyss Madison. The vicarage Harcourt set another hand. Telephone, telephone, tell. As if this information was rooted for down in the spirit of sorrow. The littleness whipped his face. puckered, the tears leapt from his eyes, his mouth opened till they could see a square black hole. At fire he was a silent effigy of sorrow, but then the illumination rose out of him, loud and ceased to Jason.